When Yu Menglong's body was found after a fatal fall from a luxury tower, the explanation came quickly. He had been drinking, it was an accident, and the case was closed. But the public didn't believe it. A grainy hallway video, a dangling phone strap, and the sudden silence of those closest to him fueled a storm of suspicion. All eyes turned to actress Ireine Song, accused of being more than a starlet. Portrayed as a madam, a fixer, even the one who sealed Yu's fate. Was she truly the shadow in the hallway that night? Or a scapegoat chosen to carry the weight of a story too dangerous to tell? The authorities gave their verdict, but the people made their own. Tonight, Criminal Tracks exposes the divide between rumor and reality in the final chapter of Yu Menglong's life. Subscribe now. You won't believe where the truth leads. When news broke on September 11th that Yu Menglong had died after falling from a high-rise apartment at Sunshine Upper East, it should have been nothing more than a heartbreaking accident. He was young, full of promise, and beloved by millions of fans. The official word was quick and simple. He had been drinking heavily, he lost his balance, and tragedy struck. It was the kind of explanation people have heard before. Yet, from the moment the announcement hit the air, there was a heaviness to the story that didn't sit right with many who knew him or followed his career. It felt too tidy, too finished, as if the final page of his story had been written in haste. Then the rumors began. Whispers spread online of a short, grainy video that supposedly captured Yu in his last hours. The story went that a neighbor had filmed it through a peephole, a shaky clip showing him not alone but surrounded. The details were vague, the images blurry, yet they were enough to spark suspicion. In the video, Yu was said to be walking down a dim hallway, flanked by several men. He didn't look like a man stumbling drunk on his way out, but more like someone being escorted under pressure. And behind him trailed a woman with a phone raised as if recording, a strap dangling from it. That strap became the detail that gripped people's imaginations. Online sleuths compared the strap in the clip to photos posted by actress Ireine Song. They insisted it was the same one she had once flaunted on her social media. The resemblance was close enough to ignite a firestorm. Almost overnight, her name was tied to Yu's final moments. Was she really there in that hallway? Was she simply a bystander, or was she documenting something darker? For many, the conclusion was obvious. She must have been involved. Once her name entered the conversation, the theories multiplied. Some said she had lured Yu to the apartment under the pretense of friendship or business. Others argued she was working for powerful elites, acting as a kind of middlewoman whose job was to ensure young actors stayed compliant. The idea of her as a madam quickly took hold in online spaces, a figure who used her access to the entertainment world to serve those above her. It was an accusation without proof, but one that stuck because of how easily it fit into the larger suspicions people already carried about the industry. At the same time, Yu's alleged farewell letter began to circulate. In it, he described shadows pressing closer, footsteps outside his door, and the sense that he was running out of time. He spoke of being used as a pawn in money laundering, of humiliation at the hands of powerful men, and of refusing to surrender his dignity despite endless pressure. The letter, whether authentic or not, was read as the voice of a man who knew he was in danger. And when people imagined the hallway video alongside those words, the pieces seemed to fall into place. The men in the video became the shadows he had written about. The woman with the strap became the betrayer, who ensured he couldn't escape. Between September 12th and 15th, the story spread like wildfire. Collages of the blurry strap and Irene's social photos circulated widely. Posts accused her not only of being present that night, but of orchestrating the entire tragedy. Some said she filmed Yu to prove to her handlers that he had been delivered. Others speculated she had documented his final humiliation, a cruel record for those who controlled him. Her silence during those days only fueled suspicion. While other celebrities quietly shared condolences or avoided the subject altogether, she said nothing. That absence was interpreted as guilt. If she had nothing to hide, why not deny the accusations directly? By mid-September, the rumor had hardened into something larger than just one video. It became a narrative of power and control. People argued that Yu had resisted the hidden rules of the industry, that he had refused to trade his body or his integrity for fame, and that he paid the price for his defiance. Irene, in this narrative, became the face of that system, the one who ensured he could not slip away from its grip. Whether or not she truly had that role mattered less than how perfectly she fit into the story people were telling themselves. For Yu's fans, the thought was unbearable. They wanted to believe his death was nothing more than misfortune, that he had been unlucky, and that alcohol had clouded his judgment. But the idea of him being betrayed, taken from his apartment, and led to his death, resonated too strongly with the despair in his supposed final note. It felt more human, more tragic, and more believable than the sanitized explanation offered by the authorities. The strap became a symbol of suspicion, a small detail that carried enormous weight. It was ordinary, the kind of accessory anyone could own, yet it came to represent the entire mystery of Yu's final hours. To those who believed the rumor, it was the piece of proof that tied a famous actress to a young man's destruction. To those who doubted, it was nothing more than coincidence, twisted into meaning by grief and distrust. But in the heat of speculation, doubt rarely wins. This was how the first wave of accusations took hold. A tragic death, a blurry video, and a strap on a phone turned into a narrative too explosive to ignore. Ireine Song's name was thrust into the spotlight, not as an actress, but as the supposed culprit in one of the most unsettling scandals the industry had ever seen. And though nothing had been proven, the public had already begun to render its own verdict. That Yu Menglong's fall was not an accident at all, but the work of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. By September 16th, the whispers around Yu Menglong's death had grown into a roar. His mother's public statement was meant to put an end to it, insisting her son had been drinking, that the tragedy was simply the result of alcohol, and that outsiders should stop twisting his death into scandal. Yet those words only hardened suspicion. Grieving fans read the statement and felt it sounded strangely polished, almost as if it had been written under guidance. Why, they asked, would a heartbroken mother speak in the language of officials? Why did her plea echo the exact phrasing of the police? For many, this was not a comfort, but a sign that forces larger than grief were shaping the narrative. This environment became the perfect breeding ground for more elaborate theories, and the name of Ireine Song remained at the center of it. By now, the blurry video had vanished from most platforms, but the memory of it and the strap detail lived on in screenshots and in the imaginations of countless online users. It was no longer enough to say she had been there. Theories grew bolder, claiming she had not only witnessed Yu's final moments, but had been an active participant in his downfall. Commentators with large followings began publishing detailed threads, portraying her as someone who lived two lives. On the surface, she was the beloved actress with an innocent image. But behind the curtain, these rumors claimed, she operated as a madam for elites, arranging encounters, trapping young actors, and delivering them into the hands of men who could make or break careers. It was said she wielded charm as a mask, hiding a role that was far darker. The idea took root quickly because it fit neatly with long-standing suspicions about hidden rules in the entertainment industry. People had always believed such figures must exist, and the rumor transformed Irene into the embodiment of that belief. At the same time, Yu's alleged farewell letter gained more traction. In it, he had written about being toyed with, about the humiliation of refusing gifts, about the footsteps outside his door. These lines were replayed endlessly alongside theories about Irene. Who else could those footsteps belong to, if not the men in the video and the woman who followed them? The connection was easy to make. The words of the note matched the images in the clip. To those who wanted answers, the match was proof. By September 17th, speculation shifted beyond just the video and the letter. Some users dug into Irene's family background, pointing to her upbringing in Shandong and circulating claims of her mother's connections to political or business circles. Screenshots of government meeting reports that mentioned her mother's name began to appear, presented as evidence that the Song family had ties to people in power. Whether those screenshots were authentic or not hardly mattered. They created the impression that Irene was not just an actress, but someone shielded by influence, a person who could be present at Yu's last moments and walk away untouched. On September 18th, fresh accusations emerged. Anonymous accounts claimed she had been spotted attending private parties hosted by influential businessmen, her role there to manage introductions between powerful men and vulnerable stars. Others said she had once bragged about having access to government officials, suggesting her career was more about connections than acting. None of these claims were verified, but they were repeated so often that they began to sound true. In a climate of suspicion, repetition became evidence. Her silence during this time became deafening. While other celebrities posted tributes or at least acknowledged Yu's death, she offered nothing. Each day, without comment, was interpreted as guilt. If she had nothing to hide, one viral post read, she would speak. The absence of her voice became louder than any words could have been. People began calling her the woman in the shadows, the one who had walked behind Yu in the hallway and never stopped walking, even as his name turned into a tragedy. By September 19th, the accusations expanded into wild detail. Some theorists insisted the USB drive mentioned in rumors was handed to her, that she was the keeper of evidence tying Yu to money laundering networks. Others claimed she had been tasked with ensuring he stayed silent and compliant. A handful of posts even argued that she had been the one to lure him to Sunshine Upper East that night, promising a meeting that became his undoing. None of this could be proven, but in the minds of many, the pattern was clear. Yu resisted, and Irene delivered the punishment. The narrative hardened further with the introduction of political names. Online commentators began tying Yu's farewell references to an old prince and a princess in Australia to high-level families. If those figures truly existed, someone like Irene was imagined as their enabler, the one who carried out the work they could not be seen doing themselves. She became the bridge between two worlds, the glamorous world of actors and the hidden world of elites. In that story, Yu's death was not just an accident, but a silencing, and she was the one who made sure it happened. By September 20th, the storm had grown too large to ignore. Legal threats began to circulate. Her lawyers called the rumors defamatory, warning of lawsuits against anyone who spread them. But the response came too late. For nearly a week, silence had given the conspiracy time to grow unchecked, and by the time she fought back, the damage had been done. The threats were not interpreted as defense, but as intimidation. People said the lawsuits were just another tool to keep the truth hidden. Instead of calming the public, they only deepened the sense of cover-up. Finally, on September 21st, Beijing police announced the case was closed. Yu had died from an accidental fall caused by intoxication, they said. There was no evidence of foul play, no signs of criminal involvement, no actress to blame. At the same time, they announced that 3 individuals had been placed under coercive measures for fabricating false information, including stories about abductions and secret recordings. Though no names were given, it was widely understood the measures targeted those accusing Irene. Yet the announcement only split opinion further. For those who trusted the authorities, the final word was clear. Yu died tragically, but no one caused it. For those who believed the conspiracy, the announcement was proof of protection. Why mention fabricated actress rumors if there was no truth to them? Why silence netizens so harshly if the story was truly baseless? The storm that began with a blurry strap and a hallway video had by this point turned into a full-blown scandal. In the eyes of many, Ireine Song was no longer just a co-star in the entertainment industry. She had become the villain in Yu Menglong's final chapter, the name people whispered when they asked who had really caused his death. Whether fair or not, her silence, her alleged strap, and the swirling rumors ensured she would never be separated from the tragedy again. After September 21st, when the police announced their conclusion and declared Yu Menglong's case closed, the internet was left in a strange limbo. Officially, there was no culprit, no scheme, no hidden player behind his death. Yet in the minds of millions, the opposite was true. For them, the story was not finished, but only beginning. And the person most people fixated on was still Ireine Song. The authorities said Yu fell after drinking. They said there was no evidence of crime. But that did not erase the memory of the strap, the woman in the hallway, or the silence that had followed. In the days after the verdict, conversations moved to smaller, hidden spaces online. Screenshots of the alleged peephole video circulated again, passed like contraband. Every time an image was deleted from a platform, it was saved in another place, captioned with phrases like, "proof they don't want you to see." Each deletion strengthened the conspiracy. It was no longer about whether the video was real. It was about the belief that something was being buried. As the rumor hardened into folklore, Irene's image shifted from actress to symbol. She came to represent not just one woman accused in whispers, but an entire system people no longer trusted. Her silence became unbearable to many. While other celebrities moved on, she remained absent from tributes, interviews, and commentary. Every post she didn't make was interpreted as coded fear. Every public appearance scrutinized for signs of guilt. The absence of her voice allowed suspicion to live unchecked. Some fans argued that she was a scapegoat, chosen because her face could be matched to a strap, and because her silence made her an easy target. Others argued that the scapegoat theory itself was part of the cover-up, a trick to distract from her true role. In the absence of clarity, two parallel verdicts began to exist. One was the official verdict, neat and final. Yu died of an accidental fall. The other was the people's verdict, messy, haunted, and stubborn. He was silenced, and Irene was involved. Meanwhile, new layers of speculation formed. Commentators pointed to her rumored family ties in Shandong, her alleged links to influential figures, and her supposed role at exclusive parties. None of it was proven, but each fragment added weight to the story. To Yu's grieving fans, the idea that his death was connected to something bigger than alcohol felt more believable. It gave meaning to his alleged farewell note, where he wrote of footsteps outside his door, of humiliation, of shadows pressing closer. Those words, paired with the woman in the video, created a narrative that would not let go. By October, the phrase "final verdict" itself had become loaded. For the authorities, the final verdict was an accident, a tragedy without foul play. For the public, the final verdict was far more complicated. It was the sense that justice had not been done, that Yu had resisted powerful forces and paid with his life, and that Ireine Song, whether as a perpetrator, a witness, or a pawn, was part of it. Two truths existed side by side, neither able to erase the other. The censorship only deepened the divide. Posts accusing her disappeared quickly, but people saved them faster. Accounts that asked too many questions were suspended, yet screenshots of their posts circulated like relics. The crackdown became its own evidence, convincing many that the state's verdict could not be trusted. In that climate, Irene was both untouchable and condemned, protected by power, yet guilty in the court of public opinion. For Yu's legacy, the result was tragic. His career, his performances, and his charm should have been what people remembered. Instead, his name became tied to a mystery and a rumor. His death, a story of shadows and unanswered questions. And for Ireine Song, the outcome was equally grim. Even if she had nothing to do with it, her name was permanently linked to a death the public refused to believe was accidental. The final verdict, then, depends on who you ask. To the authorities, it is a closed case, a sad accident, end of story. To Yu's fans, it is a cover-up, a silencing, a betrayal that will never be officially acknowledged. And somewhere between those two worlds, the truth, whatever it may be, remains buried in silence, leaving only suspicion, grief, and the haunting question of who, if anyone, really caused Yu Menglong's death. The police say accident. Yu's mother pleads for peace. Ireine Song's lawyers cry defamation. But the internet refuses to let go. In the minds of many, the final verdict has two faces. The official one stamped by the state, and the whispered one passed through screenshots and shadows. Was Yu's death a drunken fall? Or was he silenced by forces too powerful to name? The truth may never be revealed, but the questions will not die. For more stories where silence hides scandal and tragedy bleeds into mystery, subscribe to Criminal Tracks. Because some verdicts never feel final,